Hello! So, we're going to have a little look at muscular strength, how we can improve it and how that can improve our performance as well. So what is muscular strength? You're going to need to know this definition. So make sure that you write it down, make sure that you memorize it, make sure that you can recall it, and every time you see it in a question, you're going to provide the definition as part of your answer. So muscular strength is a body's ability to exert force against resistance. So pause this video, take a minute, write it down, learn it, put on a post-it and stick it up on your mirror next to where you brush your teeth or something to make sure that you learn this off by heart. So the way that I remember this is by thinking, right, okay, what do I think of when I think of muscular strength? I think of men lifting weights. So here's a nice man lifting a weight. So he is clearly exerting force, look at his face, and he's exerting force against resistance. So the resistance here is obviously those big weights. So that's how I remember the definition. So take a second, make sure you can remember it. What is the definition of muscular strength? It is the body's ability to exert force against resistance. Okay. So then, why do we need strength as a dancer? Again, I want you to take a minute, pause this, and write down as many reasons you can think of as why you specifically need strength during your solos or during your duos. Why is strength important to you as a dancer? So here are a couple of the reasons that I came up with. So we need strength to perform lifts safely. We need strength to be able to hold positions. We need strength to help us balance, especially core strength and our abdominal muscles. We need strength to help maintain alignment, to make sure we don't injure ourselves. We need strength to help us jump higher, to push away from things, and to help really control our transitions between levels as well, so moving in and out the floor so we don't get up out the floor like grannies. So then, how can we improve our muscular strength? Well, it's quite straightforward, and we use something called the 3 R's. And again, you're going to need to learn these 3 R's for me. So the 3 R's are resistance, repetition, and rest. So any strengthening exercise will contain the 3 R's. So resistance is what we're resisting against. So that we might be resisting against a weight. We might be resisting against a resistance band like we did with our kind of bicep curls and things in our circuit training in the first term, if you can remember that. We might just be resisting against gravity. So when we do the plank or press-ups or anything like that, we're working our body weight against gravity. And why do we need resistance? So resistance is what makes the muscles work. So what makes them really contract against that resistance that's being placed on the muscle. So when the muscle kind of pushes against this resistance, we cause tiny tears to occur in the muscle fibers. So it's not the muscle itself that tears, but the muscle's made up of hundreds of thousands of little tiny fibers. And when we exert against resistance, we start to cause these tiny little tears in the muscle fibers if they're not strong enough. So we want to do that, and we want to make sure those tears occur. So to make sure those tiny tears occur, we're going to repeat the exercise. So one press up or one sit up's never going to be enough, is it? That's never going to help. So we need to make sure that we're repeating an exercise enough for it to be useful. So we repeat the exercise and continue to place additional stress on that muscle, on those muscle fibers, encouraging those tiny tears in the muscular fibers to form. And then we need to rest. And this is the most important bit. We need to make sure that we rest the muscle group for 1 to 2 days after the exercise so that it can repair. And this is the whole point of strengthening. We don't want these tiny tears to keep forming. We want the tiny tears to form and then repair themselves thicker and stronger. So that kind of completes that whole strengthening process. So we resist against something to start forming these tiny tears in muscle fibers. We repeat the exercise to make sure those tiny tears are occurring, and then we have plenty of rest afterwards to make sure that they can repair thicker and stronger. So So how does this apply to what we do in class? Let's talk it through thinking about our biceps. So what do we do to increase the strength of our biceps? Well, we do bicep curls, don't we? So we use a resistance band, so we work against the resistance band to perform bicep curls. We then repeat, we don't just do one bicep curl, we normally do them for about 30 seconds, don't we, in circuit trainings? So you could say, well, I repeat one movement for 30 seconds, or you could say, oh, I'm going to do like 4 sets of 8 bicep curls. Either way, you're explaining that you're doing repetition there. And then, obviously, you rest. So the next day, you're not going to work on your bicep strength. You might work on your legs or your core or something else to make sure you're giving your biceps enough time to repair. And then that's going to improve your performance. So have a minute, think, right, why would improving our bicep strength improve our performance as a dancer? Take a minute, have a think. When have you really relied on the strength of those biceps? So for me, maybe it's when you're doing a lift. So when Amelia lifted Heather above her head in their duet, she used her bicep strength. When Holly performed the crow as part of her dance where she was hovering on her forearms, she was using her bicep strength there. So you've all got moments where you've used your bicep strength in your performance, and we can apply that to any muscle group, the 3 R's. So then we have something called progressive overload. So progressive overload is a training principle. And the great thing about progressive overload is it allows us to keep developing our strength. So we're not going to plateau. So to plateau means you get better, but then you're kind of stuck on that same level. So you can see that mountain goes up and then it just stays on that same level. And we don't want that. We want to keep getting stronger. We don't just want to kind of reach one point of strength and then stick to it. We want to keep pushing our bodies. We want to keep getting stronger and stronger. So we're going to apply the training principle of progressive overload. So progressive overload is when the muscles are overloaded, which stimulates the natural adaptive processes of the body, which develops to cope with the new demand placed on it. So progressive overload also stimulates the development of stronger and denser bones, ligaments, tendons and cartilage, because we're really boosting the circulation to those areas as we're working them nice and hard. So how can we apply progressive overload to, say, my bicep strengthening? We're just going to change one of the first 2 R's. So the first 2 R's were resistance and repetition. So maybe I'm going to increase the rate. So maybe instead of using a resistance band, I'm going to use some light weights instead to increase the resistance. Or maybe I'm going to use a stronger resistance band. Or I could just repeat the exercise more times. So maybe instead of doing 4 sets of 8, maybe I'm going to do 6 sets of 8. Or rather than doing it for 30 seconds repeatedly, I'm going to up that time to 45 seconds. So I keep pushing those muscles a little bit further, making sure that even when they've healed thicker and stronger, we're then causing more tiny little tears because we're placing more pressure on them, so that then again they repair even thicker and even stronger than before. If I was doing a static position, say maybe a plank, if I was working on my abdominals, I'd just hold that static position for longer, wouldn't I? So the great thing about progressive overload is that we continue to challenge our muscles and we continue to develop thicker, stronger muscle fibres because we make them those tiny tears, they repair and they're even thicker and stronger than ever. So just for a little recap, let's just go back to the definition of muscular strength. Can you remember the definition of muscular strength? Can you write it down for me or say it out loud? You can pause this video if you like. So, definition of muscular strength is the body's ability to exert force against resistance. So remember that weightlifter, you could see who was exerting force in space and was exerting it against weights, which were the resistance. So how do we improve our strength? What do we use? We use the 3 R's. The 3 R's are resistance, repetition and rest. Then the training principle that we use to improve our strength and to keep improving it rather than plateauing, staying on the same level, is progressive overload. So that helps us to continue to grow stronger. So improved muscular strength will help improve our balance, our control, our precision and prevent injury. And this is a really important thing. So in an exam, you might get a question about how you develop your muscular strength to improve your own performance. So you're going to talk about the 3 R's. You're going to talk about progressive overload, and then you're going to link it and you're going to explain how that's then improved your own performance. So you might be able to say, I was able to lift my partner above my head with ease, or as I fell to the floor, I was able to catch myself and lower myself slowly using my bicep strength to control the movement. Something like that would be fabulous. Okie dokes, thank you for listening.